This is the naked truth about real estate investing. Your host, Javier, has already been through all the brain damage of this business, so you don't have to go through it. That way, you're not exposed to all of the risk of losing your shirt or getting caught with your pants down. So let's dive into another no BS episode right now.
All right. It can be very time consuming. It can be very scary. It could be like trying to get somewhere without a roadmap, right? So that's why I created this due diligence list when I buy a property. When I buy an apartment building, even a mobile home park, you can use it for, mostly pretty much any commercial property. But this one specifically is for a multifamily. It could be a 6 unit. It could be a 600 unit. You can use it, for what you like. So go ahead and sign up, put your name, email. I'll send you the free link to my due diligence. This is what I've used to buy, hundreds and hundreds of units, if not, thousands of units. So sign up, you get my link. You get an Excel sheet as well. And also we use the software, project management software, Monday.com. Feel free to sign up for a free trial. I do have an affiliate link. You don't pay any extra, right? They just pay me a small fee. Don't have to use it. You have the Excel spreadsheet, but if you use Monday.com, it's actually a lot better, a lot smoother, a lot prettier, and you can do a whole bunch of other stuff. There's even a video there I created in the link. So check the link, sign up, and this is my giveaway for you guys. Thank you so much. Take care.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name's Javier Hinojo, your host of the Naked Truth about real estate investing. And today I have Casey Ames. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Ames, right? He's out at Boise, and it's actually a great city. They got a pretty cool. Is that where the college team is? It has a blue turf on the football field.
Smurf turf.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's like the Smurf. Yeah, it's super cool. So he's part of a mastermind called Collective Genius, and they're definitely crushing it out there. They're doing almost 100 wholesales a year, 50 kind of luxury flips, new builds. It's got a subdivision, 120 some acre subdivision from like ground up, from acquisition to build everything. I mean, that's insane development. You did development too on that?
Yep.
Entitlements, all that stuff. Wow.
We're doing all the entitlements, horizontal, vertical, sale, all of it.
And then you also do some multifamily build outs. You got a coaching program, and on the side, he's married and he has 3 kids on the side.
Full-time job.
There you go. Right. His side hustle is the kids and the wife, right? Because, I got 5 kids. I've been married 23 years. And I know we just talked about that. You said you've been together about 11 years.
Yeah.
And I say it feels like 5. I say it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
Then I pause and then I go underwater.
I'll leave you to say that.
There you go. Having married 23 years, my wife, she'll listen to this and she'll just smack me later. She'll probably. I'll say this today, and this will come out in 30 days, and then she'll just smack me. I'm like, well, you said something 30 days ago. I'm like, oh geez,
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, for sure. So if anything I missed, just go ahead and introduce yourself and make sure I'm sure we can sit here. I know you've done a lot, but anything particular that you want to add to that?
Yeah. No. Just the power of masterminding in general, doing these little podcasts and stuff. It's like, it's just like reading, right? I use the Bible as like a reference because that's what I've been saturated in lately. And you can read it and another person can read it and you can get 2 completely different things, right? So we could be speaking about one thing and somebody just picks up on one little minute point that one of us make and it excels their business. And so I just think that there's power in conversation. And as far as my personal stuff goes, or the company, we're in Boise, Idaho, one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. I see these little reports, and whatever the city is that the report's coming from is always the number 1 fastest growing, right? So I guess it's, some bias, I'm sure, by the reporters here, but we are growing at a rate that is too big for our britches. And so there's a supply and demand issue, right? And I think that we started out wholesaling, and I realized really quickly that that we had the ability to do more, and we had the ability to learn more processes and systems and kind of replicate those in each business. And I think that's been a keystone in our business. Is the business doesn't really change much. It evolves. But one business you build it from the ground up, the other business is going to follow the same thing. You know, you're looking at metrics, you're looking at numbers, you're looking at all these things. And then I think the idea is to delegate and train and or train and delegate. And so that you can go create more, or you can, you know, just have peace of mind, whatever it is. And so we're kind of embracing that in this season. We realize that the market is fruitful. It's not always going to be that way. And we're just trying to capitalize on this moment, maybe once and or twice in a lifetime opportunity where real estate has always been successful, but real estate is really just exploding. And, you know, there's some hindrances with that, right? Lumber, there's some commodity issues and some other things, but we learn to problem solve and navigate through those. So it's kind of just where we're at right now.
Oh, for sure, man. I appreciate that. So I know a couple of things that I hit on. You say you started wholesaling. So how long you been on real estate?
About 5 years now.
All right, 5 years. So you started wholesaling, and then you went up to fix and flip, new build.
Yeah, so we started. My parents actually, Chris Fagan and Cindy Fagan, who a lot of people in these networks know, but they started a wholesale company in Phoenix, Arizona, under Tom, and were pretty successful, and they did pretty well. Well, around the times that Brent Daniels came out with TTP. That market really got overwhelmed with cold calling and some of those things, right? Yeah. And I had been cold calling for them for not very long, probably about 3-4 months, but I was decent at it at the time. And so we came up with this idea, well, why don't I just start my own business here in Boise? Because I was calling in to Phoenix, right? Yeah. From Boise. And God's good. I try to adhere to what he wants, and I try to stay open, you know, through prayer and meditation on what he wants. And I was very present in those moments. And I understood that I was going to have to sacrifice something. And at that time I was serving tables. I had the kids, had the wife, had all that stuff. And I knew that it was time to dig in and dig deep. And God had prepared me for that through some stuff just in my past. I became pretty resilient. And so it was go time. And he blessed me with I think I got like a $20K wholesale for my first deal. And that was like retirement money at the time, right? Like I thought I had made it.
Hey, in Boise, I don't know. I think 20K might go a long way.
Yeah, not as much anymore, but don't get me wrong. There's blessings in it. But at the time that was the point. I'd worked really hard for a few months, and that was the point where I could take my leap of faith. It provided us with enough room to have some air in it. And, you know, so I was able to scale down, eventually quit my full-time job and leap full-time into wholesaling. And then we try to serve God in everything we do. And I tried to do that through my business, through networking, through talking to people, through helping people on the things that I was learning. And keep in mind also that the systems, to your point of that might go a long way in Boise. One thing that was real apparent back then is no one was utilizing the systems that Tom and Brent and some of these high business guys were using at the time. Boise historically is about 2 years behind anything. So while cold calling and skip tracing and all these things were going on in Phoenix, no one was doing that. They were just driving for dollars the old fashioned way, right? And we were cold calling aggressively. And so we were able to be successful at that. And then, you know, you start getting in there and then you're like, well, what if I keep this one? We could flip that. We could do this. It was a horrible idea for the first one, but I think it always is. And we lived and we learned, and we paid too much for money, but once again, it provided an opportunity. And then just kind of going back what I said, then it was just taking one model that we had already scaled and turning it into the actual construction in houses. And so we scaled that and then obviously getting into new construction and kind of grown since. So.
Yeah, that's an awesome story for sure. So I know earlier you mentioned that you did a lot of training and delegating, right? So what do you like to do? You like to train, or do you like to delegate? What's your personality?
I think probably I would get my most joy out of training, probably. Okay. The delegating, I think, for CEOs is kind of hard, right? You got to like relinquish control, and especially if it's your baby and, you know, it's a 7-figure business or something like that. It's like there's more than just taking a leap of faith. You got to make sure that thing doesn't crash. And I think in the first few years that I started delegating, my first one was with wholesaling. I delegated the acquisition manager and then the cold calling and all that stuff out. And I did it too fast. I wasn't doing continual training. I trained him real good, and then I kind of stepped off too quick into the flip world, and the business suffered for that. And but we learned from it, and we learned not to do that in the flip business. And once again, it's part of God's plan, right? And we're playing for bigger chips now, and we understand the importance in ongoing training and such. But I do think I think it's something that any business owner goes through, CEO visionary type goes through, where it's like, it's hard to give up that thing, you know. The financial aspect was one for me that was really hard to give up. The delegation of funds, where I wasn't babysitting the money nonstop, and I wasn't in control of all that stuff. And then my COO that runs my company, Zeb, he was at Collective this last time in Phoenix. He's just fantastic. I mean, he's just one of those guys. He's bought in on the idea, and we take real good care of him, and we'll continue to do that and make sure his life is abundant, as we're abundant. But it takes the right person to do that. And I tried to do that a few different times with some other people, and it just wasn't working. I would delegate something, and then I would leave it be, and then I'd have to come in and clean up the mess. Right. So I think it's like baby steps. You just take baby steps and delegate. So I'd find the joy definitely more in training than in delegation. I think if you train good too, then that's part of that delegation.
Sure. You know, it's like you delegate and then you give somebody a task, and then you have to chase for information. It's so frustrating as a business owner having to chase information, because you're doing other stuff. You forget, like, hey, I forget to do this, and this. And then like a week later, you're like, oh, did that ever happen? And then you got to chase for information. Oh man, that's tough.
And a lot of it for us is like quality, right? Like we put out a product that's undeniable, and I believe in it, and my team believes in it. And so there's a lot of quality control that goes in that. You know, you can't sell $1 million homes and have sloppy base and paint and all this other stuff. And
sure.
So it's just a constant training, like to your point, and being able to delegate that and get them to understand the importance by leading them and showing them the right way to do it, to get them to understand the importance of quality. And I think that's apparent in any part of the business, really.
For sure. And you just mentioned that some of your flips are $1 million. So the very first flip that you did, you overpaid for the money. I'm sure it was over budget and over time. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing.
You good guess.
Just guessing, right? So, I mean, what do you recommend for somebody, right? You know, I know you have a coaching program. So, I mean, what do you tell everybody coming in trying to want to wholesale or just even flip, right? Hey, as far as the first deal.
Yeah. It's a fine line between patience and sitting on your hands. I think beginning investors sit on their hands too much, or they're too eager to get into something and they end up buying a bad product and there's not enough room in it. I think that goes back to we're big about getting to the root of the problem, right? And creating value. And one of the things that allowed our wholesale business to generate 100 wholesales a year is that we always created value for the buyers. If there was a difference between, I'm going to make 20K on the assignment, or I'm going to make 16 on the assignment. If I make 16, that gives them a little extra room to get a furnace or whatever the case is. We always were, we were always thoughtful in that. And we always created value for the flippers, right? So that they're making money. And what do you get out of that? You get a repeat customer. They know every time they go with you, they know the feeling of cashing that check later. Whereas if every time they go to you, they're short on their reno budget and their ARV isn't right, their after repair value isn't right, or if you're blowing out comps, you could get 350 for it and the comps are really at 320. None of that's fair to the investor. And I think you have to switch that cap as a beginning flipper also. Surround yourself by people that understand what comparables look like, and surround yourself by people that understand what demographics look like in the market, and what is the supply looking like. And and that's what I teach some of my guys. But really, that first flip should, in my opinion, be more of a lipstick type product, where you're not really going to make as much on the ROI, but it provides a learning curve, right? You get to work with trades and establish relationships with trades and painters and find out that sweat equity isn't really sweat equity. You end up paying for it in peace of mind. And you get to learn all those mistakes with the little quick flips. Whereas if you're taking everything down to the studs, you might make 6 figures on the ROI, but it's going to come with the cost, right? You're going to pay for it, especially in a learning curve. So that's what I recommend. Just make sure you're getting a valuable piece. And it is a fine line between sitting on your hands and waiting too long And, you know, I can switch that lens to as a wholesaler, I would wholesale to the same 5 or 6 guys, right? And they're just burning things down. They're flipping them. They're getting them. Maybe the spread is big, but it's not crazy big, but they understand the importance of having rolling ROIs. Whereas the beginning investor often will diagnose the deal for so long that they could have had 2 flips under their belt, right? In the meantime, and yeah, they would have made less, but it was more than what they made before. So there is a fine line, but I would just say be patient at the same time and make sure you're getting a project that has room in it, and you understand the numbers on what you can make and what your budget is and all that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's awesome. That's actually really good advice. Maybe start with something a little bit lighter. Just don't do like I did. I started with the lipstick and 15K rehab, and it turned to like 40 just because I wanted to change everything, you know? So
yeah,
just, you know, that doesn't work that way. Just remember, right? You're not going to live there. Make sure it's good, but don't over rehab for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now we're like in the midst of like crazy like supply, you know, demand on houses right now, shortage of supply. So I get a lot of folks asking, hey, you know, they're having, you know, a little bit of issues grabbing some deal flow. So what would you say would be anything you've tweaked or what you recommend right now as far as somebody gonna go out and get a property to wholesale or to flip right now with the market?
Yeah, you know, I had a great conversation with Jason Lewis a little while ago, and we kind of run parallel, do different things, but we kind of run parallel. And one thing that was interesting is that our metrics were very close with the percentages of deals that came from networking. You know, you chop up the pie chart. What is cold calling getting me? What is text message getting me? What is MLS getting me? What is this and that getting me? And what is network getting me? And for one thing that we found to be true in our business is networking is the majority of that pie chart. And those other things are effective. But we see more deals come off networking than anything. And then when talking with Jason, who by all sense of it is an executor, right? I mean, the guy executes on a very, very high level. It was the same with him. And I can't remember what the percentages that he said were, but they were high. They were like 70, 80% or something like that, his deals were coming off of networking. And
Wow.
so I had this conversation with one of my students yesterday. And you know, they're trying to get me to teach them how to skip trace lists and do all that stuff. This is a flipping, just for the record, this is a flipping student, not a wholesale student. And they're trying to kind of branch out and create some deal flow. And I always just go back to the most important thing in my life, my personal life, is time. That's the most precious metric to measure, right? And what's measured is managed. And I love that quote. And I want to be able to manage my family life the way I want my vision to look like, you know. And my mentor, we're real clear, and I teach my students the same thing. Be real clear on what you want. Like, money's cool, that's fine, make it, learn the processes, learn the systems, do all that, but like, what do you want deep down inside? Like, what did you do on your bucket list, or what didn't you do on your bucket list that you want to do? Like, are you even doing what you like to do, right? Like, I think that's really important, and it goes overstepped. And I think money is the blur in that, because people are like so focused on the money, and they start taking these little side trails and journeys, and then all of a sudden there's no peace of mind, and they've deterred from the actual vision. What was the vision? You know, I want to make 500K a year, but I only want to work 1/3 of the year. You know what I mean? Or I want to work 2/3 of the year and have 1/3 of the year off. Like, are you staying true to what your actual vision is? And is that vision still the same as what you started? And if it's not, that's okay, but still be clear on your vision, right? And so skip tracing and tasks and tests or text message blasting and all, you know, direct mail and all these other things. Yeah, they're set up. If you delegate well, they're set up to not really affect your time. But at the same time, it does take time to do those things.
Yeah, it's like another business. It's another business.
Completely. It's you know, Ryan, one of my friends, Ryan Robeson, and I talk a lot. And one of my friends, Mike, actually has been saying the same thing. And it's just that wholesaling is marketing. Wholesaling is you're a marketer. The successful wholesalers are marketers, right? And what is the best thing that you can do in marketing is reach people, right? Captivate an audience. And that's what I love about networking, is because it's actually fun. you know, you're out there talking and you're shaking hands and it's Javier, what's up? How are you doing? Like, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're doing single family. Oh, you haven't? Like, what square footage you been playing in? You know what I mean? Oh, we like to do 2,000 square foot. Oh, cool. It goes in the memory bank. Next time I have a 2,000 square foot house, I'm going to call you and see where you're at on your rotation, you know? And what's cool about that is you never know what the ripple effect is, right? I get you a 2,000 square foot house just off of networking. But because of the networking, it allowed us to have a very good relationship, right? We got to know each other and talk more on the phone. It wasn't systematically set up where you're just getting an email of a blast, right? Or something like that. And now you talk to one of your buddies, right? And then I end up bumping into him. And next thing you know, he's got a connection in land or whatever the deal is, right? And value is created that way.
Yeah, it's great the way it goes around like that, you know.
Yes, I say networking, man. I always lean heavy on networking.
Yeah, so like you said, if you're a good wholesaler, you're a great marketer. I got a friend who flips a lot of houses and 100+ houses, and one day he said he gets all his deals from networking, like 99%, right?
I get a crazy amount.
Yeah.
So I mean, we flip on a high scale, right? Like we're burning down properties. If I'm not keeping them, I'm wholesaling them and stuff. And my money's set up in a way that people know I can close quick. I don't mess with them. I'm easy to deal with. My title agents always do what they're supposed to. We close on time, end of sentence, and people make money off that, right? Like either the wholesalers make money off that, or the brokers make money off that, or the agents make money off that. So I'm just getting deals sent to me just nonstop. It just says, does the deal make sense? So I'm not going to take everyone, but for the most part, if the deal makes sense, I'm game, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, it's just that networking piece.
Yeah,
your,
and
your
that's
friends,
definitely how
right?
he does it, right? He just makes sure he closes. So if if you're gonna close, he closes, and he's like, "Hey, I want to do my own off market. I want to start mailing, and I want to start calling." I'm like, "Why? Your system's working well. You don't want to start a new business, right?" And he's like, and I think he tried it, and he's like, "Nah." He's like, "No,
Yeah,
I'll stick to my networking." And then you got some guys who are great at wholesaling, and they suck at flipping. So, I mean, you know, it's whatever fits, you know, for you, right? I mean, some people can do both, which is great. You know, you do both. And but it is two different it's two different business. It definitely is.
Yeah, and I mean you can break that down on a fundamental level. Where we have found success is going into our business, and this is actually recent. Within the last year, we've actually noticed this. When we're looking at growth and how we want to expand, what are our smart horses within our business? What is generating deal flow in our business? And if networking, let's say, is taking 80% and marketing is taking 6% or 8%, right? Where do I want to put my money into? In the past, I would have been marketing, right? And it's okay to maybe scale that up a little bit to see if you get results. But now, currently, we're saying like, okay, well, 80% is networking. We need to put our money into our networking. Right? Like we need to have people within the company representing us out in the market and saying like, yeah, I work for Taylor Jene Homes. If you have a luxury house that has views or is on a mountain, or, you know, it's in the east end or the north end, which in our areas are the prime areas, like my owner will close. Let's get it done. You know, and the more people you have doing that, the more deal flow is going to come in. So
that's awesome. I appreciate all the cool nuggets. Hey, I'm going to ask you a question. So what's the naked truth question, right? What is the biggest mistake you've made in real estate, and how could you avoid it if you could have?
You know, I was gonna say delegating too quickly, and that was more apparent in the wholesale business than it was in my flip business. Although I will say that we scaled up. We were doing about 10 at one time. I had like 20 going at a time, and I realized that those metrics weren't working for me and I wasn't seeing the ROIs. We talk about like leaky buckets, right? We had so many leaky buckets at those numbers that we just weren't being efficient. And so we scaled back down to what suits us, which is somewhere around, 5 to 7 at a time, big homes. And, minus the subdivisions and the new construction going. But I will say, I think partnerships. I think partnerships is a big one. And I'm not saying don't have partnerships, but I am saying be clear on your workload in that partnership. Be clear on your communication with your partner so there's a clear expectation and everybody understands their roles. And be clear on your equity that you're giving up on your deals based on what your workflow looks like. We have a mutual friend and I who are both, we're both monsters in our own right. We can go out and just generate money. That's just what we're good at. And we started a partnership a while ago, and I was unclear on my expectations. And then I was getting upset and frustrated because my expectations that were only in my head weren't being met. Well, how's he supposed to know? Right. Yeah. And so I'm not saying don't do partnerships, and we've ironed all that out, and now it's back to being fruitful. But I'm not saying don't do partnerships, but I see more often what will happen is people will want to scale, and then they won't have the bandwidth to be able to scale what's in their head. And so they will reach to try to get somebody on that can help them with that bandwidth. And in my experience, that person will never care as much as you. And so you're always going to be going back and doing their work and, checking their quality and why are we not tracking this and where's our KPIs with this and so on and so forth. Right. And you're just setting yourself up for failure. I have a guy who, one of my students does about 30 a year, and he's got a partner, and it's not a fair partnership. And I've told him my suggestion is that you squash that partnership or renegotiate it, because he's doing all the work, he's providing all the capital, he's doing everything, and the guy's supposed to come in and do construction and he's not cutting it, Yeah. And so just be wary of that. Like scale to what suits you, get in where you fit in, right? If 5 at a time is a comfortable rate, focus on getting 5 at a time better before you go to 10, and make sure you're scaling appropriately rather than saying, okay, let's go to 10 because we could make 5 million if we did that, because you're just going to end up having leaky buckets everywhere and people are not going to do what they're supposed to. So I'd say partnerships, I wasted probably 2 really good cycles, probably about, I'd say somewhere around 16 months where we were still profitable. But a lot of that was because I was getting them at a wholesale rate that was way low, so I might have got them at like 40% or something. So there was like a big learning curve room. But I lost about probably somewhere around that time, almost 2 full cycles of wasted opportunity in allowing partnerships to go on longer than they should have with the hope that they would get better. And it all comes back to before I got in that partnership, I should have, if you know then what you know now type of thing. So I didn't know I was supposed to grow that way and supposed to learn what I was supposed to learn. But I deal with partnerships a lot differently now. So don't give all the equity away. That's my key point to that whole thing. Don't give all your equity away when you're still doing a lot of the work.
Oh, that's awesome. So, partnership is kind of like marriage, right? For everybody out there who's married. I mean, everybody has to have your expectations and your responsibilities, right, hashed out, because if not, like you said, you have them all in your mind and you're going to be super unhappy and the other person has no idea, right? So you always got to talk and then just have conversation, make sure that the partnership still works. So that's actually key. When starting a partnership, make sure everybody knows what they're going to get, what the role is, right? And, expectations, their duties. So that way somebody doesn't feel unappreciated or feel like they're doing more and not getting their fair share. I mean, that's tough, and it is tough, right? Because at the end, everybody's happy at the beginning until something goes wrong, right? And then you don't want it to get messy, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure you end any partnership in a good way, if you can, just because you never know, you might need each other again in the future or for some connections.
Yeah, and I would say parallel to that, or at least real close, is scaling. If I have any advice for people is don't get caught up in the hype of scaling too quickly. A lot of it's an ego thing, right? You see brats doing 200 plus unit apartments nonstop all over the country, and you're like, oh, I can do that. And before you know it, you're in a hole, and the guys like, I think early in my career, I'd sit around guys that were doing like 50 to 100 a year, and I wanted it, right? And I don't want to do 100 homes a year. Like, I know who I am now, right? And I know what I want, what my vision is. And I would do 100 homes a year if it was set up right, but I'd analyze that deal real carefully, like that big subdivision that you mentioned. We have that's a big project. There's also a healthy reward on the end of it. I'm willing to go through some war on that bad boy for the way that it's going to change some things. But I think that people get caught up in that hype of scaling very often because he or she does it. And how are they going to perceive me if I need to step my game up? Just scale appropriately, and learn from the people that have done it before you. That's the biggest thing, is like seek counsel. And if you're trying to do 50 a year, learn from those people. I bet almost all of them come back. If somebody's doing 50 homes a year, I bet almost all of them come back and say, don't scale too quick.
Oh yeah. I can definitely back you up on that for sure. I can definitely back you up. And we'll talk. I've said my story a couple of times in the podcast, but I'll share mine with you if you don't know it here after we're done. But so just I'm going to do a quick summary. We talked to you wholesale, you flip, you got a coaching program, you do some new construction, you flip about 50 houses a year, 70, 80 you wholesale. You mentioned partnerships, right? That's one thing you got to make sure you hash out before you move forward, and make sure everybody feels like they're doing their fair share and getting compensated like the way they're supposed to, and don't scale too quickly. And the biggest thing that I got is watch out for those leaky buckets, right? I've seen a lot of leaky buckets. It's just, don't go down to the river, get 10 buckets full of water, come up to you back to your cabin, and they're half empty.
Just might as well just get one full.
Yeah, you might as well. You're better off just the amount of work it takes to bring 10 buckets is a lot. Go fill up 3 full buckets, and you'll be a lot better, a lot less work. So I really appreciate that. It brings us to the next segment of our interview, which is the Naked Truth Roulette. I'm just going to ask you 4 random questions.
Here we go.
Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. So let's roll. They've been pretty good. They've been good. And
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, let's see what we get for you. You do get 1 pass, okay?
Oh, are they random to you too?
They are
okay.
Random. They're random, man. I just spin them and then we go. Let's roll.
This is great.
All right. What is the most embarrassing thing you've ever worn?
Oh, I think around like 6th grade, I used to wear those Jinkos. The big old bottoms. They almost look like bell bottoms, but I think that was the grunge stage back then. And I had a pair that were they were green corduroy, and they covered my whole shoe. And I'm glad I have no pictures of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Somebody asked. You got to have a picture somewhere. Oh, that's awesome.
No.
I'm sure you brought back some memories. You're not the only one that wore those. All right. Let's go with question number 2.
I love how you can't see the end of the question.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you can see them. Hey, your favorite band, song, or artist?
Woo, that's a hard one, man. Yeesh. I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with the old classic, Bob Marley. I think
Bob Marley. You cannot go wrong with Bob Marley.
Nothing puts me in a better mood than a little reggae in the morning.
Man, you can't go bad with that with Marley for sure. All right, let's roll. Question number 3. All right, so hero or a villain for a day?
Hero.
All right, I like that. You went pretty quick.
Yeah.
Actually, the second person that doesn't pause.
Yeah.
Some people pause for like 5 seconds and think about it.
Yeah. No need for villain in my life.
There you go. All right. Last question. Let's see what we got. All right. Hey, do you have any tattoos?
I'm covered in them.
All right. That's good. Well, we got some folks don't have tattoos, thinking about it. I don't have any. I'm 42. I think about it. Look at that. There we go. Everybody saw tattoos. There we go on the arms. And I think about it like, hey, I need to get a tattoo. And then I forget. I get busy. And I've been doing that for like 20 years.
I think like when I first started getting tattoos, though, it was original to get tattoos. Like not everyone had them,
Yeah.
And now I feel like I love my tats. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I'm a like firm believer is like, if you don't have any, it's almost more original to not have any anymore.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
So you're doing all right.
All right. Appreciate it, Casey. All right. So tell me how people can get a hold of you.
You can reach me on Facebook. Really give me a call if you need to get a hold of me. You mentioned CG. Medley's got my number. Or Casey so CASEY at taylorjenehomes.com. So it's CASEY at TAYLORJENE homes.com. Shoot me an email and we can connect that way.
For sure. I'm going to make sure I have some of your other social media. If I don't have them, I'll make sure I get them and put them in the show notes. So anybody needs to get a hold of you. And how about a little bit about your coaching program? Are you taking in new students? What does that look like?
I mean, I will. I'm a pretty spiritual dude, and a lot of my coaching is rooted in spiritual principles. I'm a firm believer in business is just a reflection of our spiritual life. If we're healthy in our spiritual life and following strong principles, then we take those same principles to business. Our businesses will be healthy as well, and God will bless those businesses as well. So I'm pretty selective with who I take, but at the same time, it's just not a focus that I'll take students on. Let's answer that. So if somebody loves the style and really wants this to approach, then I will definitely consider it. As for scaling my coaching business, I have about 5-6 students now. And I'm cool with that. If the right person comes around, we'll grab hands and we'll do the thing. But I'm not really trying to scale that business quite yet. I'm focused on some other stuff. I kind of got a singularity of focused mind, and we got a lot of projects going on, and I want to complete those. And so that's kind of the main priority. But GWWG is LLC is my coaching program, and it's give what was given. So yeah, that's that.
That is
same
awesome.
Email, Taylor Jene Homes email.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. That's very valuable. And one of the things you mentioned earlier too, right? It's one thing you can never get back is your time. So definitely, I always appreciate folks' time. We spend together, and you share some knowledge with the listeners. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here today. My name's Javier Hinojo. Another one, Bites the Dust. Here in the Naked Truth about real estate investment. Make sure that you don't lose your shirt.
You're invited to leave an honest written review and share this episode with a friend. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.